A breath of fresh air. It's Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
Breaks my soul in pride. My mind is moving slow. Far from all I know. Give me time to know. My mind is moving slow.
Tēnā koe, kia ora. Welcome to Sunday Sanctuary. This episode is all about the kindness of strangers. Let me welcome you. E ngā manu, e ngā reo. Mai i ngā hauewha, tatu mai nei ki te manga o tēnei rākau whakareruhau. Tau mai nei ki tēnei kaupapa e pāpaho atu nei ki a koutou arā ko Sunday Sanctuary. Ko Petra Bagust tēnei. E rere ana ngā mihi kia koutou. So, from wherever you are in this beautiful country of ours, feel free to rest in Sunday Sanctuary for a moment. This sheltered branch of a tree that we call Sunday Sanctuary, which is going out to all of you. I'm Petra Bagust, and I acknowledge and thank you for being with me today. Honestly, this has been quite a joy to put together, to wonder, to remember, to forage for. When have I experienced the kindness of strangers? And honestly, I think it shows up all over the place. I feel anytime somebody lets me into a queue, when there's so much traffic and they've been queuing for ages and I show up at an intersection and they're like, yep, hop on in. That's kindness from a stranger. When you're singing happy birthday to somebody in a restaurant and the restaurant joins in, that's kind of kindness from strangers. A specific time for me was when I flew to Wellington to a memorial service for a dear friend's father. And I thought, I know what, I'm going to try Uber Share. I'm going to keep the costs down. I'd already paid a fortune for my flight. I'm going to keep costs down. I'll try this Uber Share ride, or whatever it's called, ride share. And I'm sitting there and you book it and it says time to destination, 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And then it just kept going up and up and up. And basically it was a weekend. It was an odd time of day and nobody was ride sharing. So after about 30, 35, maybe 40 minutes, I was like, can I pluck up the courage to speak to this couple? People had come and gone and say, hey, where are you going? Could I maybe, if it was appropriate, hop in your car? Could I share a ride? And I braved it and I said to this couple, where are you off to? And they said Central Wellington. And I said, me too. Could I jump in your Uber with you? They're like, yeah. And we had this awesome chat about thrifting on the way in and what they were up to in Wellington for the weekend and catching up with their whānau and all that sort of stuff. And then they were like, see you later. And I thought, wow, how kind of them to extend their space, to trust me, to jump into the car with them. And I guess I feel like I see kindness a lot, in part because I think it will be there. And I'd love to share this little thing I found on the internet in Cup of Joe, one of the OG bloggers, influencers on Insta. And it's written by a woman called Anna, and this was her story. After a breakup, I was waiting at the airport for my flight home, and I could not stop crying. I sat in a corner and tried to shield my face from everyone. But one kind stranger noticed. Moments before I boarded my flight, she handed me a small Starbucks bag and just said, this is for you. I was a bit confused but thanked her, and when I looked inside, saw a muffin and a note scribbled on a napkin. Sorry you're feeling sad. Ice cream usually helps, but they didn't have any. Hope you like muffins. P.S. I love your hair. I mean, how cool is that? To reach through somebody else's sadness. And when we're feeling low and down, we do kind of withdraw. We kind of try to shield or hide ourselves away from the sight of others. But for that stranger to, I guess, reach into Anna's vulnerability and offer kindness is such a beautiful thing. I've got more wonderful stories to read for you, share with you, and we even went out into the streets and asked you about when you've experienced the kindness of a stranger.
Awe, wonder, surprise, incredulity, admiration, marvel at the world we live in. It's Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
Hermit crabs use abandoned seashells as mobile homes. As a crab grows, its shell becomes an ever tighter fit. So eventually a crab needs to move in to a bigger one. Suitable empty shells are few and far between, and this one is far too spacious for this crab. But instead of continuing its search, this small crab settles down to wait. Other crabs, also looking to upgrade to a bigger home, soon gather whenever a shell washes ashore. Unfortunately, the new shell is too big for them too. Despite that, the gathering crabs begin to measure each other up, and then they do something really rather extraordinary. They arrange themselves into an orderly queue. The biggest at the front, smallest at the back. They're lining up with one aim: to exchange properties. After a close inspection, the big crab moves in. This triggers a chain reaction. Each crab hurriedly moves into the shell vacated by the crab ahead of it in the line.
Okay, nature never fails to amaze me, because it's not like those guys will email each other and say, shell swap time, Sunday, 4 p.m. They just, there's this innate knowing. It's an innate, because it's like instinct. It's like biology. They know they need another shell and they need to get it from someone else and be given it and give their shell. The connectedness, the deep connectedness. Oh, I like it. We're going to talk more about our connectedness in this episode of Sunday Sanctuary, where we're exploring kindness of strangers. So what we do each week is an examine. You are going to imagine looking inside your body as if you are meeting yourself for the first time with kindness, with love. You are a kind stranger. So it could be called beginner's mind. And what I'd love you to do is to breathe in deeply. Hakiroto. And to breathe out. Hakiwahu. And now use your mind's eye and have a look at your tinana, your body. Maybe start at your feet. What are your feet touching? The inside of your shoes, the carpet, some slippers, socks, the ground. Whatever it is, notice it. Feel your feet. Breathe in, deeply, gently, kindly. Hakiroto. Breathe out. Hakiwahu. And then send that breath, that oxygen around your body, looking with kindness for any blockages, tension or tightness. Breathing in, sending the oxygen to your legs, to your organs, to your heart. Send it to your shoulders and your arms. Allow that oxygen to flow into each and every part of your body. And if you find somewhere that is tight or tense or stuck, breathe. Sending life, sending oxygen, sending love to that part of your body. Allow life to flow through, up and around any stuckness. Ha-kiroto. Ha-kiwahu. Let yourself breathe deeply again, feeling the loving kindness flow through you, flooding your heart, wrapping your mind, wending its way. Notice any change. Perhaps there was a tightness that you could release or let go. Perhaps there was a block or a stuckness that softened. Allowing the life, the modi, the breath to soothe and tend to any pain. Honestly, picturing this flow of goodness or light or however it shows up for you in your mind's eye around your body is a way of offering your very self kindness. We are so deeply connected to each other, and I do believe that it is more whole and more healthy when we can also be connected to ourselves. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if anything showed up for you, feel free to, DM me, text me and say what happened. I did it with a friend recently, and I was like, oh, wow, it was amazing. I saw, just the colour in my heart change from a dark colour to a brighter colour as I allowed, that love, that light, that life to enter into my heart. So I hope you enjoyed that. Coming up on Sunday Sanctuary, have I got some gorgeous stories for you. Oh my goodness, the kindness of strangers never ceases to surprise me.
Sunday Sanctuary, a reset for your soul.
Welcome back to Sunday Sanctuary, the kindness of strangers. And I do love a good candle lighting. I've got some giant matches, and I'm going to light a candle now. And I'm going to light a candle, I think, for anybody who feels the need for kindness in their life in this moment. Yeah, for those of us who are feeling a little disconnected from kindness. So that need is a good one. The match is lit. Now I'm lighting the candle. Wow, I love it. That was a very persistent flame. That was like saying, here I am. I've got plenty of kindness, plenty of light and love to go around. And as I place that candle down, it will sit on the desk as a reminder that there is light, that there is love, that there is life in our world, and that it's spreadable. Oh my goodness, I'm going to light a second candle. This is so symbolic. Kindness is catching. I believe in it. There we go. 2 candles. I've got to say I'm pretty happy with the double candle situation. More light. Oh, it's lovely. It's so ambient. Coming up, I'm going to join my good friend Petra Zaleski for a kōrero around kindness of strangers. She happens to be New Zealand's own Vicar of Dibley. She's actually the Vicar of Onehunga in Auckland. But up next, here's a story from 9/11 that you may not have heard before.
On the fateful morning of September 11th, 2001, a flight took off from Frankfurt, heading for Atlanta, Georgia, on the east coast of the United States. 5 hours into their flight, Delta 15 was suddenly diverted to the nearest airport, which was 400 miles back in a small town in Newfoundland, Canada. The passengers were not told about hijackings or the Twin Towers in New York. They were told the plane had a simple instrument problem and needed to land for safety's sake. They landed on a small runway, and within an hour there were 53 airplanes from all over the world parked on the tarmac. It was clear from looking out the windows at the other 52 airplanes that something serious had taken place, and for 6 hours the passengers sat in their seats as bits of news started to come in. Despite the shocking and terrifying news, everyone stayed amazingly calm. Canadian airport authorities were allowing people off the planes one plane at a time, and for the passengers and crew of Delta 15, it was 12 hours before they were allowed off. Passengers were not happy, and it was a very uncomfortable night on the plane, especially for one young woman who was 33 weeks pregnant. At 11 the next morning, a convoy of school buses showed up, and passengers climbed on board with no idea where they were going or when they'd be able to resume their travels. They had landed in the town of Gander, a population of 10,400 people, and this small town now had 10,500 passengers to take care of from all around the world, from the 53 airplanes that had been forced to land there. There were literally more passengers than residents, but the people of Gander were extremely friendly. They seemed strangely well prepared and referred to the passengers as the plane people. What happened next is as remarkable as it is heartwarming. Over the next 2 or 3 days, the town of Gander and all the surrounding communities laid on the most extraordinary hospitality. They closed all the high schools, meeting halls, churches and any other large gathering places and converted them into mass sleeping facilities and living spaces for all the stranded travellers. If any women wanted to be in a women-only facility, that was arranged. They'd managed to find airbeds, mattresses, stretchers, sleeping bags and pillows for everyone. Families were kept together. Elderly passengers were taken to private homes and looked after by locals. The young pregnant woman was put up in a private home right across the street from a 24-hour medical care facility. High school students were required to volunteer their time to take care of the guests. During the day, passengers were offered excursion trips, boat cruises on the lakes and harbours. Some went for hikes in the local forests. Local bakeries stayed open to make fresh bread for the guests. Food was prepared by all the residents and brought to the schools. People were driven to restaurants of their choice and offered wonderful meals. The plane people were given tokens for local laundromats to wash their clothes since their luggage was still on the aircraft. For those stranded travellers, every need was met. After a couple of days in Gander, every passenger was delivered to the airport right on time and without a single person missing or late. And when the passengers shared their stories with each other, there were tears at just how incredible their experiences had been. It was like they'd been on a cruise. They'd gotten to know their fellow passengers by name. They were swapping stories of their stay, impressing each other with who had the better time. And when Delta 15 finally continued their flight to Atlanta, it felt like a chartered party flight. Passengers were exchanging phone numbers and email addresses. And then a very unusual thing happened. One of the passengers approached the flight crew and asked if he could make an announcement over the PA system. That is normally never ever allowed. But he was handed the mic. He said he would like to do something in return for all the people who had taken care of them. He said he was going to set up a trust fund under the name of Flight 15, the plane's flight number. The purpose of the trust fund would be to provide tertiary scholarships for the high school students of the town. He asked for donations of any amount from his fellow travellers, and when the sign-up sheet went around, the total was for more than $20,000. The guy who initiated it was a doctor from Virginia, and he promised to match the donations and take care of the admin. That fund grew to over $2 million and has now assisted hundreds of students in their education. From exceptional hospitality comes unexpected community, and the reverberations of that small town's kindness will be felt for years to come.
It is my joy and delight to have Petra in the studio. Yay, so much fun. You don't get to meet that many Petras, or you didn't used to. I'd never really met any. But anyway, Reverend
Yeah.
Petra Zaleski is here with me, and she is the Vicar of St. Peter's in Onehunga,
Yes.
Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. And it's just such a joy to sit down and kōrero with you.
Thank you, Petra.
And we're talking about kindness of strangers today. And for our sacred text, we've actually pulled a piece of audio from Paddington Bear, the movie. And this is a scene where I guess Paddington Station is pretty much deserted, and sitting on his suitcase in front of the Lost and Found sign, and the doors even locked for Lost and Found, is a small bear wearing a ruggedy kind of scrumpled hat. And this family walk past, and there's a mum and a dad and a couple of kids, and they walk past and somebody notices the bear.
Hello there.
Mary. Oh, hello. Coming down in stair rods, isn't it?
Yes.
Mum!
I hope you don't mind me asking, but shouldn't you be at home?
Oh, yes, I should. But I haven't quite worked out how to find one.
Well, where are your parents?
Oh, they died when I was small.
Here we go.
All I have left is my aunt.
And where's she?
Darkest Peru, in the home for retired bears.
Yeah, of course she is.
How did you get here?
I stowed away in a lifeboat
Cool.
and ate marmalade. Did you know bears like marmalade?
I didn't even know bears could talk.
Oh, well, I'm a very rare bear. There aren't many of us left.
And what are you going to do now?
Well, I thought I would probably just sleep over there in that bin.
That's the spirit. Anyway,
Dad!
Why don't we find you some help?
Oh, yes, please. If you're sure it's no trouble.
Of course it isn't. Is it, darling?
not at all.
Some interesting dynamics there.
Aren't
hey?
there? Yeah.
Yeah, you've got this family and the father's like, let's keep going, we're
Yes.
almost home.
Moving on.
And just keep it clean and tidy,
Yes.
no fuss.
Yeah.
And Mary, the mum, notices the spear and pauses. And one of the kids is also trying to say, come on, mum, don't be embarrassing.
You can just see it, can't you?
Yeah.
I think that's an experience that people can relate to. I mean, obviously, there's a rather good biblical story about people who walk past,
Oh, yeah.
and one
The
who
Good Samaritan
stops.
is what you're referring
Exactly,
to.
that's
Yeah, yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what I'm referring to. But I love how Paddington says, "I'm just going to sleep in the bin."
In the bin.
In the bin, and the dad goes, "Rightio,
Yeah,
that's
good.
lovely."
Sounds good. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
The line
Yeah.
that really stood out to me is when Paddington says, "Are you sure it's no trouble?" And the mum says, "No, it's no trouble." That's not actually the truth, I don't think. I think when we pause to offer love or kindness or help or assistance or a helping hand to a stranger, it is some trouble.
Yes. It reminds me, if I can share a story, there was recently a fire in Onehunga, and Dana, my warden and BFF, gave me a ring and said, "Petra, it's 10:30, there's a fire and I'm worried about the church." She said, "I'm going down." So I rocked down in my pyjamas because I'm cool like that. You can wear pyjamas outside, everybody, and to the
Absolutely.
supermarket. We got there and the building was completely set alight. It was 2 or 3 buildings up from the church. And there was a group of people there. And one of the people said, "Look, I'm just wondering, can you have a chat to them?" And Dana said, "Let's open the church. Let's get the tea and coffee out." And she huddled them down to the church and got them blankets and cups of tea and coffee. And then what was amazing, by 11:30 midnight, they had nowhere to go. They had no money. There were no social services agencies open. It was literally a Paddington situation. There was no one around. Dana said, "I'll take them home." So she took these 2 men home, didn't know them from a bar of soap. In my mind, as the vicar, I was thinking about all those consequences and health and safety and all those things. But she just said, "I'll take them home." So she did. She took them home. And that just was so, so amazing to watch somebody do that literally out of the kindness of their heart. And there are consequences. There's risk
to love is to risk, isn't it? In that completely abandoned way.
And it's to spend your time and energy for somebody or with somebody.
There's
it's
a cost.
Actually to give of yourself. Funnily enough, and I don't think this is why we do it, we often get a lot more than we give. Like, I think that's one of the consequences of kindness to strangers is you receive something you never would have if you hadn't put yourself out.
I was thinking about that coming over, thinking about that authentic giving of self, because maybe you've received it unto yourself. Like, I remember pivotal point for me in my life was when I was first at rehab in 2003. And I was about to declare myself bankrupt in 2 countries. My 3-year-old Natasha was with my parents, and I just felt like the worst person in the world. I had a faith. But in my mind, the God of my faith at that time was saying, "You naughty girl, you will never be saved, sinner." And so I went in sort of with my tail between my legs and met these 2 amazing Salvation Army officers who looked me in the eye and spoke to me like I was a human being. That was it. I had, everybody else was trying to pray for me or fix me or, well, you need to do, telling me what I needed to change me. And I was just utterly accepted. And that's actually the core moment for me when I wanted to be able to pass that on. That total presence and total understanding that I was a human being who was worthy of their presence. Amazing. That was probably the most life-changing bit in the whole 8 weeks of rehab, actually. But it was that recognition.
Which was, in essence, the kindness of strangers.
It absolutely was. And they didn't know me. I mean, obviously they knew something about me, that I was there, so I must have some kind of history. But there was no judgment. No judgment. So critical. Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it? And I do think there's something so profound about being loved and accepted or seen as a human, honoured, respected in some way. Just, it's almost like the gift of mana.
The recognition of mana in the other.
The recognition of mana.
Allows me to recognise my own mana. It's mutuality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Connection.
Yeah. And in valuing the vital essence or the humanity of another person.
Yeah.
That usually comes out of a place of recognising and valuing our own humanity. Otherwise, we're working very, very hard.
Yeah.
You know, we're shoulding, we're coulding, I ought to, I should, I must, I have to.
It's my primary default mode. It is. I have to work a lot. Like I said when I met you before, you know, it was the judgment, the analysis. But if I am grounded and paused and centred, I can understand that I am who I am, made in the image of God, whatever that means, and I'm okay. I don't have to be this or that. So I think Christchurch, you know, that horrific, traumatic event in Christchurch, after we heard about that, and again it was Dana that rang me and said, "Have you heard the news?" We made contact with a few people, and our local councillor, Josephine Bartley, is another woman who is a complete legend in kindness. Somehow it all came together, and the very next night we had a vigil at St. Peter's. We had candles for the souls who had passed. We had an organist, and we had a large group of people from the Islamic Association come into the church. And at 8 o'clock, the imam said, "Can we wash our hands? Can we pray? It's time to face Mecca." So I said, "Sure," and showed them where the bathroom was. And they came back out, faced Mecca, which was over towards Countdown, and the call to worship was sung, Alif Allah, there is no greater God. And it lifted up into the rafters. And there was something there about that common humanity of our grief and our loss that was beyond words. It didn't need theologizing. It was just that beyond words connection, relationship. And I think that was something that I really look to the speech that the Imam gave, you know, that whole notion of common humanity. I am but one among many. And the message of peace. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Such a good message. Such a good message in our time.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, when we're talking about something like kindness of strangers, it doesn't have to be this massive thing where we give everything and all of our time or energy or resource. It's, can I choose in this moment to receive something with kindness, to respond with kindness? Can I smile at a stranger? Can I be patient with somebody who's annoying me? Can I choose to be kind while I'm driving, while I'm cooking? Can I choose kindness? And to live where we are capable of offering ourselves and others kindness increases the kindness in the world.
Well, if we've got time, I'd love to share a story.
Okay.
Onehunga Embracing Families is an organisation that works out of our church on Saturday mornings. And beautiful, lovely Raywin was walking her dog in the rain one winter 4 years ago, and she saw a group of 3 people huddled together in the middle of a rotunda, sheltering. So she saw them huddling together, giving each other warmth, and thought, what can I do about this? So she spoke to her partner and said, can we go down and give them some soup? So they gave some soup. Then they literally just printed out flyers, which they'd photocopied themselves, took them around social housing, kainga order places in Onehunga, and said, we're going to be at the car park on Saturday at this time. And everybody showed up. They had 70 to 80 people. Funded completely out of their own pockets, and they're a low-income family themselves. Now the volunteers are the people who receive. And now they're in our church because one of our parishioners went down every Saturday, a woman in her 80s, going down to korero with people just as a friend. Not what's your story, not who are you, how can we help, but just sitting down, talking to people. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So now we've got this organisation, Orange Sky. Have you heard of Orange Sky? They're a bus that has washing machine and shower facilities.
Awesome.
There's a few of them around the country now. They come out, plug in their van, and people are able to have a shower and wash their clothes.
Oh, great.
And volunteers sit and have conversations with their friends.
Right.
They're called friends rather than the homeless, which I personally hate.
Yeah.
People experiencing drama and trauma in their lives that's beyond their capacity to fix. And then these conversations just grow. And like you were saying, the process of it and something outside of ourselves.
Magical.
It is.
Mysterious.
It is.
Powerful.
It is mystery. It really is. And that Raywin and her friends still rock up every Saturday unfunded. They get some kai from Kiwi Harvest.
Cool.
But down to the plates that they've provided for themselves.
Wow.
And they're just amazing.
Yeah.
And this collaboration. So we've got our church whare in the middle of Onehunga because, we're not going to fill that up with 5,000 people every Sunday. It's not going to happen. So where is the spirit of kindness, of love? Where can we feel it? And they are the ones that minister to me. I'm supposed to be a vicar. I'm supposed to be the reverend. But to be honest, these women from a grassroots place and still 4 years later going out and offering people kai and somewhere to sit and be warm blows my mind.
So good.
Because I want to package it and institutionalize it and, shall we be...
Roll it out.
Yeah, charity status. And exactly. And I'm learning. You just got to slow the hell down, Petra. So that's my personal life challenge at the moment, just to peel everything back. And even when a good idea like Raywin's comes along, rather than getting on the phone and networking and finding out all these other people, just Petra, leave it the hell alone. Let it grow as it needs to.
Let it be enough.
Let it be enough.
Awesome. Petra Zaleski. So good to have you at our Sunday Sanctuary table.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's amazing.
Yay.
Thank you.
Just to keep keep things fresh and funky, we decided to send one of our senior producers, Josh Couch, out to the street to ask people when they'd experienced kindness from a stranger. And if you think about it, he was essentially asking strangers to tell him stories about kindness. I kind of like it.
I don't think people are kind enough to strangers. I think we're a very friendly bunch here in New Zealand, but are we kind?
This lady, when I was in Kmart, the line went all the way around the store, so it would have been like over an hour wait. And she was like, oh, you don't have a few things, just come stand here, because I was carrying a box load of things. And I was like right in front of the line then. And she was like, we just know each other, but we didn't. So that was really nice.
Not spontaneous, but lots of organized. There are times where people will say, hey, let's all get together, let's go help out the local elementary school. Let's go paint this wall, let's go do this. I've seen that happen a lot.
Oh yeah, when I was about in year 8, intermediate, I was walking home one day and it was raining, Handies, and this old lady pulled over the side. She's, you like a ride? I was like, hey, stranger danger. But I might as well give it a go. And then, and then about 3 days later, I seen her struggling on the side of the road with her groceries. And I was with my friend and I was like, bro, it's the same lady that dropped me off. He goes, no way. I was like, should we give her a hand? He goes, up to you. It's like, do you reckon we'll crack some coin? I was like, most probably, bro. He goes, like, yeah, let's give it a go. I didn't really care about the coin. Just wanted to help an old lady out. And then, yeah, that's a beautiful kindness moment, I guess you could say.
Once when I was in not my city, and I went to bus and I didn't know, like, I have to have the cash, and it was in Europe. So one boy behind me, he said, like, I just pay for you. Like, he just could see that I don't have cash. And otherwise I couldn't go to bus, so he paid for me.
Like, everyone is kind here in New Zealand. While we are walking there, like, there was an old lady waving to us.
Oh, yeah.
It was nice.
And once one of my customers asked me for coffee, so that made my day.
Took you out for coffee?
Yeah. Paid for it, so it was really nice. Yeah, and asking how was your day and all that. So yeah, that was nice.
Oh, I was coming out of the countdown down here and struggling with my bags. This is a few years ago now. And an elderly lady in her car pulled up when I went to the taxi stand and said, did I live locally? And I said, yes. And she said, would I like a lift home? And I was like, yes, I would love a lift home. And that's what happened. She gave me a lift home. I never forget her for that. Because, you know, as an elderly lady, it's not easy to trust. I said to her, I'll pass it on when I can, when I see an opportunity to do so.
Oh, that just warmed the cockles of my heart. How good. Okay, we haven't done this before, but we are an official podcast now, and so we thought it was time to ask for your kindness. Can you help us get the word out about Sunday Sanctuary? And there are a few ways you can do it. You could share your favourite episode, well, surely that's all of them, with a friend, recommend. You can subscribe where you get your podcasts from, and a 5-star rating would be so amazing. For those of you who love to write a review, please feel free to leave us a review or join our community on Instagram. It's at Sunday Sanctuary NZ. Ngā mihi, thank you.
Food for the Soul on Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
So good to have your company on Sunday Sanctuary. Our episode Kindness of Strangers continues, and we went to you, our community. And this is what you had to say about a time when you experienced kindness from a stranger. Tian Yi said, a stranger paid for our meal when we first became parents. It was so kind and unexpected. Jess said, a free bag of donuts from a bakery stall closing up at the end of a market. I love it when that happens. Megan said, a child gave me a packet of sweet pea seeds she'd just won at a fair that I was volunteering at. It's the simple things, hey? And what about this? At a park one time, a fellow mum offered to take photos of me and my son. That's from Grace. A homeless man helped me fix my windshield wiper in the rain. Wow, I love that. Thanks, Emma. When I fractured my hip in an accident, I'll never forget the kindness from the paramedic. And I tell you what, it makes a difference, doesn't it? That was Paula. This from Marianne. When my daughter was 2.5, she had an accident on her scooter, and the result was a huge flap of skin hanging off her nose. After surgery, she had to wear a very conspicuous dressing, which was hard. One day at the supermarket, an older couple who we didn't know were chatting to us and asked about her injury. We parted ways, but about 10 minutes later, they found us and gave her a teddy bear for being such a brave girl. She is now 18, but neither of us have forgotten that day, and she still treasures that teddy. Oh, what an awesome story. How about this one? When getting my groceries, the lady in front of me paid for the nappies and wipes I was getting. Go, you good thing. When I was a student in the US and had very little money, the checkout lady at Trader Joe's gifted me a bouquet of roses when she learned I was graduating. Awesome. A mum helped me get my pram in the car when she saw my bubs was upset. Oh, that's from Nat. This in from Bettina. A young guy paid for my fuel, a full tank, when my credit card wasn't working. So nice, so kind. How about this? I have recently been on crutches, and seriously, the world is full of kind strangers. That was from Michelle. When I was camping a couple of months ago, I got talking to an Israeli couple who were finishing their road trip around the Motu. We ended up sharing crepes for dinner as part of a birthday meal, and before I wandered back to my tent, I was given a large handful of feijoas. That's from Sam. Just simple, eh? Simple kindness. Lisa said a stranger gave me the only ripe avocado from the roadside stall for my baby who was starting solids. Oh, I remember those days. Man, I fed my daughter a lot of avocado. Anyway, it's not about me. When I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, a group of strangers from my friend's church filled up our freezer with kai. And that's from Johanna. And that is the perfect way to end this community life. Thanks for sharing your stories with us.
It's the Sacred Text on Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
Something that feels like a common thread in all of this kindness for strangers conversation is the fact that we are having compassion for somebody else. We're noticing or paying attention to someone else. And so Grace McArthur and I consult with Brené Brown's Atlas of the Heart and find out how she defines compassion. So that's coming up. And after that, I dig into this idea of compassion with Matt Renata. He was originally from Wellington and worked there as a youth development coordinator for Lower Hutt City for like 8 years. He's Māori, Indian and Spanish. He now lives in Auckland working for a group of not-for-profit organisations. But we talk about not only this idea of showing compassion to each other, but as tangata whenua, also the idea of showing compassion to the land. So that's something to look forward to. Here's Grace. Hey Grace, glorious to have a kōrero with you. Let us investigate compassion.
Yes, I'm very excited about this emotion that we're exploring. So in Atlas of the Heart, the book that we use to expand our emotional toolbox, Brené's definition for compassion is the daily practice of recognizing and accepting our shared humanity so that we treat ourselves and others with loving kindness, and then we take action in the face of our suffering. So there's a lot.
Okay,
there's a lot to unpack in there.
There is a lot, and I do wonder if it's worth repeating. And the first thing that strikes me about that is the daily practice. This is not a sprint. This is not a one-off. This is not I can just do this and it'll be fine. She'll be right. This is like, a walk.
So it's this practice of recognizing. So we recognize and accept this shared humanity that we have with other people. And in doing that, we're able to treat ourselves and others with love and kindness and then take action in the face of our suffering. So she sort of talks about how it's not just I fix you, I jump in, I'm better than you and I'll fix this situation. It's fueled by this understanding that we're all made of strong parts and struggling parts, and no one is immune to pain or suffering. And if we can meet people in their suffering, then help them, then take action.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and amen to that, sister. Strong parts and struggling parts, and meet people in their suffering, not look at somebody else as a project or an opportunity to show up and I can fix, I can help, I've got the answer, I'm the solution. And I think so often we don't go in with that intention, but we think, oh, I can help or I can do it, rather than pausing long enough to sit with the pain beside somebody else.
Yeah, and it's hard to do that. It's very confronting, and I think that's why we don't do it. So I really like this Buddhist nun Pema Chodron writes, compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. And I feel like that is just like revolutionary. And he says, only when we know our own darkness well can we be present with the darkness of others. Compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity.
That's that shared humanity again, that no one is immune from suffering and or stuffing up and or darkness.
Yeah, and I think that, like, I've always thought of compassion as a kind of distant thing and a feeling, and you sort of see a horrible thing on the news and you think, oh, I have such compassion for them. But that's not really true compassion, because true compassion requires us to recognize our own suffering and come close to that person and accept the discomfort and sit with them in it and share it with them before jumping into action.
Yeah, my own story in this last year and a bit, maybe couple of years, is intersecting with the idea of compassion and recognising that being kind to or caring for others or being concerned for others isn't cutting it. It's not working. It's not whole somehow. And that if I couldn't have that same compassion or kindness or holding of the difficulty and the distress and the darkness, I guess, symbolically, that metaphorical darkness, which can feel like real darkness actually.
Yeah.
If I was unable to be compassionate to myself, then I couldn't really be compassionate to anyone else. It was like I couldn't give away what I didn't have. And I didn't have much compassion for myself. I just had expectations, and I had I had like critique, and I had judgment, and I had all these kind of sayings like, why don't you? When will you learn? Why can't you? And none of those voices or thoughts were compassionate. And I thought, unless I have it, unless I can give it to myself, how can I give it away?
Yeah, and how can we truly, like, compassion and that feeling of shared humanity is what compels us to act, and that is what brings change into this world, and we require that compassion in order to make a difference in people's lives and to serve people and help people.
Yeah, like to contribute. Hey,
yeah.
I love that it comes back to action, even in Brene Brown's definition of compassion. You know, it comes back to, and then we can take some action.
Yeah, it is. It's never just a feeling. Like, that action part really does have to be in it. But I think you need the feeling deeply in order to have the action, because it's not just action either. So you've really got to hold both together.
Marry the two.
Yeah.
And we know that marrying things is usually fraught in some way. It involves a little bit of friction, a little bit of tension. So it's okay to find this challenging.
Yeah.
It's okay to wrestle with it. It's okay to engage with it actively. I mean, I've engaged with compassion actively. I've asked myself, can you offer yourself compassion here? Can you be compassionate to your thinking, to your mind, to your body, to your behaviour? Because the hope is that I can then offer that. I can see and feel the goodness of it and then spread it and share it.
And I think in the context of kindness to strangers, compassion is vital, because how else will we connect with people that are different from us, that we have we may feel like we have no shared anything with, without that compassion. And with compassion, we can share in, we may be living in completely different worlds. We may have our paths may be completely different, but we do have that shared humanity, that strength in that struggle.
I love it. Good, deep kōrero, Grace.
Love it. Thank
Love
you.
it. Thanks, Brene Brown, for the springboard. Thanks to the Buddhist monk. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Tēnā koe e hoa. Matt, so good to have you back on Sunday Sanctuary. You came in to the studio when we were a radio show.
That's right.
And it was an awesome kōrero. Today we're talking about the kindness of strangers. So I suspect you may have a few whakairo, some thoughts and some stories for us.
Yeah.
So when you first heard that we were going to kōrero about kindness of strangers, what came up for you?
Yeah. Well, interesting. Brene Brown's like a legend.
A legend.
And just hearing that though, like the palette of emotions is so broad.
So
Whoa.
colourful, eh?
And we hardly ever tap into some of these emotions and different ways of experiencing empathy. That's interesting to me. So I know this feels like a gem. When I was considering the kaupapa and having karakia and praying, I was going, what is kindness from a te ao Māori lens? There's a couple of words that kind of pop up. There's probably like the palette of emotions. There's probably a palette of kupu that you could describe kindness.
A palette of words.
A palette of words.
I love it.
But one that kind of popped up was atawhai.
Atawhai.
So this like kindness, generosity, and a giving out of an abundance maybe that, you know, it's not giving out of an empty cup. It's like an overflowing cup.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's atawhai. And then the other kupu which really resonated with me was manakitanga. And manakitanga is, well, manaki is made up of two words. It's usually translated into English as hospitality, which I don't think is the fullness of what manakitanga is. You have mana and aki. Mana is a very difficult word to interpret. However, mana could be a sense of authority, or it is humility mixed with authority, maybe respect. But mana exists within every single human being, within humanity. And if you can aki that mana.
Aki raise or support?
Yeah, aki is kind of like to encourage, enhance. And so if you manaki someone, you're actually enhancing the mana that exists within that human.
Yeah. So it's like conferring respect or conferring or honouring the value of that other person, the sacred goodness or the who they are is good.
Yep. Doesn't matter where they come from, what their story is.
What they've achieved.
Yep. If they, what they identify as, or what abilities or disabilities they have, every single human has mana. And it is our purpose here on earth to enhance the mana that is within another.
And so then mana and aki and then tanga is the doing of that, isn't it? That makes it an ongoing action?
Yeah, well, it just draws the whole thing out. Okay. It's like mana enhancingness.
Awesome.
Just all around. So maybe that could even exist within, creation, the natural world, you know, the world that's around us, the trees, the birds, the animals. What does that mean to show kindness to not only human beings, but to the world that we live in?
So going back to that first word that you used, atawhai, and you were saying that is out of resource, out of a full cup. I notice in Brene's definition, it was compassion is the daily practice of recognising and accepting our shared humanity. It's like that it applies to us, that there's this starting point of if we can't recognise the mana in ourselves or encourage or support or hold or uplift our own mana, how do we do that
100%,
for anyone else?
Yeah, I got goosebumps when you said that, because really are we receiving or being that kindness to ourselves? So are we actually being kind in the way that we treat ourselves, like our own thoughts, our own feelings? What are the narratives that are going around because really it starts within here, and then the overflow is, it should go to others.
So what I hear you saying, and it's kind of like a coming home again to, it's a light bulb moment, but it's like, oh yeah, remember. It's not transactional. It's not, I give to you so that I am proving that I'm good.
Yep.
Or I do a kind thing to show the world that I am kind. It's not an exchange, is it?
No.
There's not an economics of kindness here.
Yep.
What I hear you saying is that they're in the being of mana, having a presence and our essence being of value, knowing that we are good and kind.
100%.
That the good and kindness extends out and out. Like
Yep.
it is given and received in a way that isn't transactional, in a way that is ebb and flow, in a way that is breathing, in a way that is...
Yeah, it's like an embodiment of kindness, of manaakitanga. You don't do kindness to strangers, you be it. It's in your being, in your nature, the way that you receive it from wherever you receive it from, but also how you acknowledge that within your own life. And then it's like you be it to others. You don't do kindness to strangers, you be it.
And then you're not going to run out. It's not this massive effort where you're like, oh, I wasn't kind enough today, or yesterday I didn't do it, or I did it and then I didn't do it, and I am it and I'm not it. It's like just has a different feeling.
Yeah, and sometimes my cup does run low.
Of course.
So I have to get into my own karakia space.
Yeah.
And I have to really, meditate. And for me, I ask Te Atua, I ask God, what is the truth here? Because it's so much confusion or maybe lies that are going around not being kind. What is the truth here? Oh, there it is. Or sometimes I just got to go and surround myself with people that embody kindness. Don't do it, they just embody it. Oh, cool. Go have a coffee with them, go have a beer with them at the pub, and then it's like, oh, this is filling my cup back up. Oh, okay, I remember. And then it just reactivates that way of being as opposed to do kindness.
I reckon that's really good. I reckon it's a really good reminder, being kind. And it not being a tick box. I was kind today, I wasn't kind. I am kind, I am not kind.
Yep, get the brownie points.
Yeah.
Tick, tick, tick. No, it's not about that.
Because it's like a thought that comes to mind when I pick up rubbish sometimes on the street when I'm walking along and the rubbish is, whatever on the pavement. I'm like, what do I do when no one's looking? Like, who am I proving this to? Is this part of who I am, or am I doing it for the brownie points? And I'm like, oh no, I can choose just to do it because I am.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting you bring up rubbish, because if you just look at rubbish from the surface, it's like, oh, you're just being a tidy Kiwi. And I'm keen as for being a tidy Kiwi. Like, I remember that back at school getting drilled into me, but it was more, I've gone from being a tidy Kiwi to being a kaitiaki because of my kindness to Papa Tuanuku.
A caretaker
of
the land.
A guardian.
A
caretaker, a protector of not only the land but the moana, our waterways. But I don't think too much about it. I just be it, and so it's interesting that you bring that up, because usually we're like, oh, kindness towards another human being, ka pai. But when it comes to te tai ao, or the natural world, you can also embody that same kindness. And it comes in many different ways, Yeah.
It so does. Can you think of other ways it comes in? Did you have a thought?
I think about spaces, and I remember one time we were over in Alabama, so totally different whenua, different vibe, and kind of trying to sink in. And I remember one of the first experiences I had, myself and my wife, we got out of the car, come out of the airport, got out of the car, and then all of a sudden I could feel, it's going to sound really out the gate, but we could hear the land and feel it and sense it in so many different ways. I've never had that experience in another country before, so for some reason this time we were just activated. And I remember I just had to bend down and touch the land and go, tēnā koe. Oh, tēnā koutou. I see you. Oh, I see all of yous actually. you know, those that have been the kaitiaka of these lands or whatever. So as Rach and I were kind of going about our day, we, you know, would see, so Rach saw this old kuia, you know, and she's dark-skinned, majestic kind of, you know, lady. And Rach just simply held the door open for her. You know, it's just one little tiny act of kindness, but Rach doesn't even think it. She just bees it. This lady came up and was like, why would you do that for me? And Rach was like, what do you mean? She goes, I've never had a white person open the door for me and hold that door open for me. And Rach was like, what? Because there's a whole lot of thoughts going on. She's like, I'm not white, but I kind of am, but I can, you know, it's like all these things. And this kuia was like, can you please just wait there? She reaches into her bag, grabs her phone, takes a photo of Rach holding the door open for her, runs back to her table of kuia and goes, this lady opened the door for me. And we're like, what the heck? You know, this is 2022. You'd think this would be normal, but that tiny act of kindness meant the world for her. But it's because we were already just in sync and just, you know, going about our ways. Another way was we were walking down the street, and I don't know if I should say this story, but because it's kind of like there's tapu around it, you know. But we were in Selma, and that was where the civil rights movement, you know, Martin Luther King, they really took off. There's a whole movie on Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement called Selma. And we just happened to be walking down the street, and we hit like an invisible force field. Both just stopped, you know, and Rachel's holding her puku, and I'm kind of like, oh, it feels like we're going onto unsafe territory. And so we decided not to move forward into whatever this place was. Our Brazilian friend who was with us just didn't sense it, you know, he just walked in, taking photos, snap. Rachel and I were like, we can't do this. We found out later on, you know, because I was asking Rach questions like, what are you sensing in your puku? And I was like, do you have your ikura? You know, it's at that time of the month. She's like, nah, that was like 2 weeks ago. This is a different sense. It's a different feeling. And I was like, okay, we can't go forward, you know. So anyway, I found out later on at the conference that place that we were about to walk into was where the highest concentration of lynchings happened for our African whānau that were brought over, you know, and enslaved. We had no idea, but we could feel it and sense it. Our kindness or our empathy or our compassion desperately wanted that land and for the people there to be healed. But we couldn't quite activate it. You know, we needed the people of that place to go and whakawātea or to cleanse the hara or to cleanse the...
hara's like evil or badness?
Hara's, yeah, badness, or there's something that's in the way. It's obstructing. It's almost like the blood was still crying out from the land.
Yeah.
And no one has really come to whakawātea. And so we saw in the flip side, like, oh, we wish we could be a part of this, but this is so much bigger than what we can manage in the short trip that we were in and knowing the right people to go and do that. So, but yeah, it's just another way that maybe we were seeing, you know, like something in us wanting to help, something as little as opening the door or clearing the land. Yeah.
And I do wonder if you as a Māori tāne man who is aware of, you know, land where bad things have happened, where lives have been lost and where land has been lost and where mana has been lost, blood has been spilt, that openness to seeing and knowing your own history and your own story allowed you access to that, the spirit of that land, where the same thing in a different way and in their own way has happened. So it's, yeah, those things are big. Those things are not all about having the answers and having the solutions and wrapping it up with a bow. They're about a way of being in the world. And I think the call to being kind is a really good challenge or orientation to this idea of compassion, where we can come into ourselves and say yes to the kindness in us, and then also look after it, like awhi it, feed it, like you're saying. Choose to be around kind people, choose to see the kindness in ourselves. Even for me, it would be hearing my thoughts out loud. So when my thoughts become unkind, I notice them and say, I hear you, it's okay. Yes, you're telling me a story, probably to keep me safe,
Yes.
probably to stop me from embarrassing myself or being, I don't know.
Going into unsafe places.
Yeah, but it's okay, I've got this. So you can, because kindness to strangers for me is so profoundly powerful that we can offer something of ourselves, of kindness, of human respect and kindness that actually says, yes, we are kind. It affirms the humanity of others, and then it bounces and affirms me. Sometimes it's smiling at people. Sometimes it's just smiling and they smile back and you're like, yes, the world today is a good and safe place. Not that things aren't happening and people aren't hurting, but in that moment, yes, to the goodness of the world.
Yeah, and that genuine smile, where it's that embodiment of that kindness when you smile at a stranger and they're like, oh, it kind of piki te ora, it lifts them up, gives them life, because then sometimes it's the awkward smiles where there's not kindness behind it, and you're like,
And sometimes you think, if I smile at this person, will they interpret it wrong? So you risk being misunderstood. Because I see people, sometimes they're having you can see it, they're having a bad day. So you can try and reach in with a smile or a kia ora or hello, and it's okay if it's misunderstood even. Like for me, sometimes I'm like, it's just worth the risk. Just offer your love and kindness in a smile or in a hello. Yeah.
I also remember, so the difference between doing kindness or being kindness. I remember in my Te Reo Māori class, I came in one morning and I was just feeling sad. And so we're going around the class saying, oh, how are you feeling? And I was like, oh, he pauria hau. And my kaiako goes, kao. And I was like,
no.
Yeah. He goes, kao anō. And I was like, he pauria hau. He goes, kao. I was like, in front of the class.
I am sorry. No, you aren't. I am.
And I was like, I'm sad this morning. That's what I'm trying to say. I said it in English. He goes, kao. He goes, kei te pauri koe. And I was like, well, what's the difference? He goes, you're not a sad person. You're feeling sad today. Kei te pauri koe. You are feeling sad. But when I look at you, I think you're a kind person. I think you're a loving person. I think the way, and he was going, so you are that. So you're just feeling this way, but, and I was like, oh, that's a totally different way of looking at it. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I'm not a sad person. I'm feeling sad this morning. But yeah, I am. I'm a fun, I'm cheeky, I'm kind. That is the person that I am. So, yeah, it was just another flip on, in the moment as to embodying it or being that person.
I love that. We've actually discovered that in an episode talking about I feel overwhelmed rather than I am overwhelmed, because we can say in English, oh, I am sad, meaning like you're saying now, oh, I'm a sad person, but I'm so much more. I feel sad.
Yeah.
And that's really true and good to know. Yep. But I am more than the sadness I feel.
Yeah. So it was just an interesting look at it, because I am not anxiety. I'm just feeling a little bit anxious today, but I am not that. Actually, I am this. And we got to be very wise as to the words that we speak over ourselves and the words that we choose to identify ourselves with, because sometimes if we speak it over ourselves too much, we can become that. But no, I am kind.
I am compassionate.
I am empathetic. And we just embody those things. Yeah.
Matt, Renata, always a joy. Tēnā koe.
Much love. I love being in the sanctuary with you and your amazing team. So kia ora e te rangatira.
Sunday Sanctuary, your mug of goodness.
This is the part of Sunday Sanctuary where we like to reflect on communion, and the practice of communion comes from when Jesus shared his final meal with his closest friends and followers on the night before he was executed. Now, as a first century Jewish rabbi living and teaching in Roman-occupied Palestine, this Jesus guy would have been acutely aware of intense tribal divisions and boundaries, of, separation and arguments and really not seeing eye to eye. One of those divisions was between the Jews and the people of Samaria, who were a distinct religious sect. Now, a story you may have heard before is the one Jesus told about the Good Samaritan. There was an oxymoron. It's an excellent example of radical kindness to strangers. That story showed up the religious and self-important as hypocrites, while the despised Samaritan is the one willing to stop and help a stranger. Well, there's another Samaritan in the Bible as well. Jesus met a woman from Samaria, and it was at a well outside of a town around about midday. It was only Jesus and this woman, and Jesus says to her, "Look, would you mind popping your bucket down in the well and drawing up some water so that I could have a drink?" Literally talking to her would have been breaking all sorts of cultural and religious taboos, and yet Jesus goes right on ahead and asks for kindness from a stranger. Now, in the Christian tradition, here's God himself asking for help. Wow, there's something about asking for help that's really good. That's really a great reminder of our shared humanity and connectedness. I actually think it's good for the soul. It's a way of practicing compassion in so much as we make space for it in our own lives. And look, we can't do it all. We haven't got everything sorted. I literally need others. I'm reliant on so many invisible kindnesses simply for my daily sustenance. So as today we reflect on communion, there was a time when Jesus, or God, asked for a drink, and there was another time when he offers a drink. And I'm glad Jesus chose food and drink that night. He turned these common items into powerful reminders of our collective and individual needs. And he turned them into a reminder of his own commitment and eagerness to provide for us. We can rest assured there is a God who is familiar with our needs and is deeply compassionate towards us. I love this part of the program where I get to offer you a blessing. Today, it's for when your cup is a little empty or low on compassion. Think on the smile of a stranger, the warm glow of a sunny face in the winter of a long day. God, show up in the eyes of a stranger. A helping hand reaching out to hold a door, slip on the sleeve of a coat, over the phone assistance with a form that will not be filled in. Fill us in, Lord, with enough compassion for this day and the next, for the dark days, the heydays, and all the ways we need each other's compassion. Let love loose and kindness overflow, spilling out so that today I might show up compassionately for others with words and actions. I might even show up compassionately for myself with thoughts and ideas. Give me space to breathe and to be. Let me be a stranger who is kind, reaching out a helping hand, a helping thought. You got this. Yes, you can. So I wonder, will I let you, the divine, be enough today? Will I let myself be enough in a world that is most definitely enough? You, God, are the source of all goodness, and everything good comes from you. I open up to goodness, compassion, fill my kete, my cup. Wow, that was a lovely adventure for me to discover so many kindnesses from so many strangers. Let me finish by reminding you what Brené Brown, both the science and lived experience, says about compassion, that it literally becomes real when we recognise our shared humanity. What a good place to pause. So I hope that you can go and show compassion to yourself, to the land, to those inside of and outside of your circles, because, wow, we never know what might happen. I look forward to your company on our next episode of Sunday Sanctuary. Until then, haere rā.